Earlier this week, I ranked the current Disney revival era films, so today we're going to stop and rank all 10 Disney Renaissance films from the worst to the best. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Sean Chandler, and I started this channel essentially because I was driving everyone around me crazy talking about movies way too much. If you can relate, you're probably in the right place, and consider clicking that subscribe button. Also, go ahead and give me your ranking down below in the comment section. Which ones do you love, which ones do you hate, and everything in between. One more question for you. Also, which era of Disney films do you want me to rank next? I'll watch through them with my kids, put out another video, and we can have a nice, lively discussion about that era that you guys pick. With that said, let's get started. Coming in last place is the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Now, I appreciate that Disney tried something different with this movie and they went in a dark and somber direction. You have to change things up if you want to keep things fresh and unique. And I also understand that some of you love this movie and it's one of your personal favorites. But sometimes risks don't pay off, and in this case, a G-rated, lighthearted, family-friendly take on a Victor Hugo novel didn't pay off. Just imagine if this had been as well received and as successful as The Lion King when they'd have followed it up with Disney's Les Miserables, a delightful tale about a quirky ex-con seeking redemption by raising the child of a dead prostitute set during the wacky French uprising. There's something for the whole family. With elements of public humiliation, infanticide, sin, damnation, political and religious corruption, but mixed with two wacky gargoyle side characters, I struggle to even know who the target audience was for this film. Now, of course, it's beautifully drawn, professionally made, and features some powerful songs. So while it's last on this list, it's still a very well-made film, just not one that I enjoy very much. At number 9 is Pocahontas. Coming off The Lion King, Disney very wisely went in a very different direction by tackling a historic event. Once again, the soundtrack is fantastic. It has some very strong vocal performances in it. Also, there's a number of just gorgeous, big, sweeping sequences, including a slam-bang finale. But the film feels devoid of fun, and they didn't find something to put in fun's place. Even the color scheme seems very muted and kind of drab. Pocahontas as a character is fairly serious and has a tendency toward sermonizing and lecturing people, and even our comedic side characters in the film feel a little bit more sidelined than in some of the other films. This makes the film feel out of balance and overly serious. Also, and on a personal note, the film feels kind of forgettable to me because it uses a very familiar and clear story template. Before it came out, it was used by Dances with Wolves and Ferngully, and then after its release, it was done by The Last Samurai as well as Avatar, and so the movie kind of just gets lost in the mix to me. So once again, while this is a very well-made film, and I can understand why other people would enjoy it, there's not much here that draws me to it. Coming in at number 8 is The Rescuers Down Under. In many ways, this film feels like the black sheep of the Renaissance, as it's the sequel to a film released in the previous era, the Disney Dark Ages. And it feels out of line with the prestigious tales and historic events that inspired the other Renaissance films. But that's not to say it's a bad film. It's a fun adventure without any pretenses. But because it was released surrounded by two iconic Disney classics, it gets unnecessarily forgotten. This globetrotting adventure is anchored by a couple of great characters in Bernard and Bianca, and our villain McLeach is a nice, energetic foe. Because casting known actors in animated films is very common today, it's very easy to overlook how stacked the voice talent was here for its time. You got Bob Newhart, George C. Scott, John Candy. In many ways, the casting here was ahead of its time. While it doesn't soar to the heights of some of the films on this list, well, it does during the Albatross sequence. It's still a great time at the movies, and one of the first movies I remember seeing in the theater. Number 7 is Hercules. To me, this movie feels like the biggest wasted opportunity on the list because I think that Hercules is just great source material to make a fantastic Disney film, and instead we got a fun film that's kind of a mess and all over the place. Fun, but a mess. Several different storylines are introduced, and I thought any one of them could have made for a great, clear adventure. But the movie can't decide on its direction, its tone, its style. So instead of one great movie, they took 3 movies, put it in a blender, mixed it up, and we got one good enough Disney adventure. Because the source material is so strong and that they tried so many different things, there's no shortage of entertainment value here. It's very watchable, but I couldn't help but feeling like they could have made something really special. Coming in at number 6 is The Little Mermaid. This is the film that kicked off the Disney Renaissance, and they did it by putting their Disney spin on a Hans Christian Andersen tale. The film marked a return to a certain type of prestigious storytelling for Disney. With charming characters and catchy songs, there's no shortage of things that make this movie very likable and memorable. Ariel is a great lead as she has this energetic curiosity that can captivate almost anyone, and along the way we also get a nice little romance thrown into the mix. Where it loses me a little bit is in the finale. Up to that point in time in the movie, we've been watching a story about a romance and a girl that wants to be a part of a different world, and then suddenly we're in a story about trying to defeat an evil sea witch. The good stuff here is some of the best Disney has ever put out, but it needed a little bit of work in the story department. Bringing us into the top 5 is Mulan. In many ways, this is my type of story. I enjoy stories of becoming, martial arts, Chinese culture. So for me, this is a movie that's very easy to sit down, watch, and enjoy. And of course, it builds towards that great big final battle in the finale. The villain can be a little bit generic, and Eddie Murphy's wushu can be a bit much for me. But with this film, it's one that doesn't really elicit big emotions from me. There's nothing I really hate about it, but there's also nothing I really love about it, which also means I don't have much to say about it. It's a solid entry into the Disney canon and a fun spin on the idea of a Disney princess. At number 4 is Tarzan. Because this movie came out when I was in high school, I never watched it until about a year ago. And I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. Right off the bat, I just loved the way this movie looked. From the fluidity to the animation to the way that Tarzan swung through the trees, it just looked fantastic to me. Even the color scheme is so vibrant and alive. The Tarzan and Jane dynamic is a great setup for fun, adventure, conflict, and of course some romance in the mix, and it's all appropriate for all ages. Also appreciated that it never felt pretentious. It stuck to the pulpy nature of the source material, and it didn't try and Lion King-eyes Tarzan. Now the song strategy here is a little bit weird. They had Phil Collins write some real nice songs for the film, and then he sings them in the background. And so it's like they wanted the soundtrack of a musical without being a musical. Still, this is a great fun time. But real quick, before I give you my top 3, give me your ranking down below. We're going to disagree, and that's the fun part, so we can talk about why. Also, remember to tell me which Disney era you want me to rank next. After this video, check out this playlist up above. It's got my best Disney and Pixar rankings. I ranked all the Pixar films. I ranked all of the current Disney revival films. If you enjoyed this video, there's something in there you will enjoy. Kicking off the top 3 is Aladdin. For me, this is the most fun film on this entire list. Robin Williams gives one of the most scene-stealing, in-your-face performances in animation history. It's like they just wound him up, let him go, and then told the animators, you just gotta figure out how to animate this insane performance. But even if Williams wasn't in the film, it would still be a wild, fun ride. It's filled with chases, treasure hunts, magic, all the stuff that just makes for a fun adventure. Add to that, like almost every other film on the list, it's got great music. In fact, this movie features my go-to karaoke song.
I can show you the world, shining, shimmering, splendid. No one can tell us no, where to go or say we're all
The big thing holding this one back is that some of the zany humor is so cultural and tied to a specific time period that it hasn't aged particularly well. Besides that, this movie is an absolute blast. Our runner-up is Beauty and the Beast. The first animated film to ever be nominated for Best Picture still holds up wonderfully 30 years later. The entire film is created with this sense of elegance and gravitas, almost as if they knew they were making something really special. But that doesn't mean the movie lacks entertainment or humor. It seems to perfectly balance the sophistication with the fun. The characters are great. The story of romance and redemption is heartfelt. This isn't just one of the great Disney movies or one of the great animated films of all time. This is just one of the great films of all time. But coming in at number 1 is The Lion King. Disney goes full Shakespeare on this one, and the results are fantastic. From the opening shot to the end credits, it's absolutely beautiful to look at and massive in size. All the characters here are interesting and bring something unique to the film. They're also crafted in a way that you remember even the side characters' names and personalities, and they're each given a moment to shine. And given the size of the cast here, this is really impressive. Of course, the songs here are memorable and fantastic, but Hans Zimmer's score is equally memorable and iconic. But what puts it on top are the deep themes of regret, redemption, and responsibility. And while it's still great for kids, it's packed with rich emotions that resonate. Aside from one too many fart jokes, this is basically a perfect film, so it comes in at number 1. Remember to check out that playlist to the left with my other Disney and Pixar rankings, just like this video that you just watched. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.